Hello and welcome back. So what we're going to do today is make our very first app. If you watch the previous Android Studio installation video, so this one is right after that. We're going to make a very simple application. Uh, so I've started Android Studio here. As you can see, it's starting up. I just wanna start Paint here. Let's see, Paint, right? Right. So what our application is going to do is basically going to be a clicker. If you ever seen a clicker, it's this device you hold in your hand to count things, right? So let's say you're working the front door at a club. You need to count how many people are coming in, how many are going out, so you comply with the laws, right? Don't want to overload the place in case there's an emergency. So you're gonna have a button. Just call it click. Gonna have another button. Call it I don't know, reset. And then here we're gonna have basically a label here where we can display the numbers. So let's say there's a number 8 here, right? So this is an application. Every time you click on the click button, this number goes up. So 9, 10, 11, so forth. Every time you click reset, number goes back to 0, right? So you can start over, and that's it. So I have a project open here. I'm just gonna close the project, so I was just working on this before. Those, oops. Okay, closing the. Okay, here we go. So we're gonna start a new Android Studio project. We're gonna call it Clicker. God. So here in the company domain, if you have a website domain, you should put it in there, so that will become part of your package name. If you don't have a website, you can put your first name, last name combination, or something that you think will be unique enough, because the package name has to be globally unique if you want to publish your application in the Play Store. So there cannot be another package with the same name, otherwise it won't allow you to upload. So that's why you use your domain if you have one, because that's unique. Otherwise you just be clever, first name, last name, middle name, whatever. Okay, so next we're gonna stick to phone and tablet here. You can also use Android Studio to create apps for all these other types of devices, the watch, TV, Android Auto. We're gonna leave the minimum SDK as it is, so you can choose which versions of Android you want to support in your application. So minimum will be, so your users will need to have at least Ice Cream Sandwich to install your application if you publish it. Just gonna leave it as it is. This is just a tutorial. Okay, so here what I want to do is choose empty activity. There's blank activity and empty activity, which seems like the same thing, but the blank activity has this extra floating button here. Remember, I forget what it's called. And it also has the menu. I don't need any of those, so just gonna put empty here. Next. I'm gonna leave everything as default, so our activity name is gonna be main activity, and our layout name is gonna be activity main. Okay, so just gonna go finish here to create the project for us. See Gradle running here. Gradle is the build system that Android Studio uses. I'm actually not connected to the internet right now. I wonder if this will work. Let's see. Build is running. Right, so let that run. We can carry on. Maybe not. There's some errors already here. Let that build run first. see what happens. Okay, so that's cleared up. Okay, so this is a main activity. This is a default activity created by the empty project we chose. So what an activity is when you see an Android screen, that's most of the time that's an activity, like that one screen which you're viewing on your phone, which has buttons on it, and that screen of the application, that's an activity. So they have the code part of the activity. So we have main activity, and then if you go into the resources layout, you'll see the layout of the activities. So the code controls sort of what the application will do, and the layout is what it will look like. So I just double click that activity here. It should load the layout of our application, so how it will look on the screen. It takes a while the first time. Right, so yeah, ignore this render problem here. Just gonna close that. Right, so you can see it's rendered very nicely in a, looks like it would look on an actual phone. So they've included this hello world here by default. So this is a design view. If you go down here, you see the design and the text. If I click on text to show me the XML, so this XML here is what renders as this layout right here. So the XML actually controls how the application will look. So you can see there's a text view here, which is this one here, and it has the text hello world in it. So if you remember, application has a label here, which we said we are going to display the number, and there's two buttons. So what we're going to do here, I'm going to go back to design view. It already has a label, so I'm going to leave that one alone, and then I need two buttons, right? So I'm going to, you can see all the possible views here you can use. Just gonna choose the button one here, and we're just gonna drag it onto the screen, and then you can see that this layout lines that, and it sort of sticks to the lines. So as you're moving the mouse around, you'll see it sort of sticks to the middle here, sticks to the sides, sticks to the top, and so on. So I'm just gonna put it here somewhere, and then I'm gonna move this. I want to move this to the center. Just drag it to the center, center. Somehow center, not really. There we go, that's the center. Okay, so we have one button there. We're gonna drag another button onto the screen. We have a second button, so one's gonna be click, one's gonna be reset, right? If I click on the button here, click it once, selected, I can change the properties of the button over here. So I can just change the text here. It says new button, I can put click, and you see the text changes. Now the size of the button has also changed because the text now is a different size, and the button grows to accommodate the text. What I can also do is if I select this button, I can either double click it. Oops, sorry, I can't actually double click. I can select it, and then I can go to the text view. So I'm gonna click text down here, and you can see the layout XML. See our two buttons here and our text view. Text view is this label here. Okay, so our second button here, I want to change the text on the button. So I could just do that instead of doing it in the properties window. I can just edit it right there, and you can see it changed once again. Also, I want to remove this hello world here because our application is going to be counting numbers. I'm just going to put 0 there as the first number. Then back to design, I can change some things about this. Maybe I can make it a little bigger. Text. So if you go down here, the text size here. Text size, let me see, 24. Yep, 24 is possible text size, maybe even bigger, 32. Okay, put it 32 now. You see DP here is a density independent pixel, if I'm not mistaken. So what this means is it will try to keep the text roughly the same size regardless of the type of device you are using. So because devices have different densities of the screen, so some are HD screens, some are, I don't know, ultra whatever they are nowadays. So if you put a hard size in here, it would appear differently on all these devices. But since this is a density independent size, it will adjust itself accordingly, depending on the screen resolution. Something like that. That could be completely technically wrong, but that's sort of what it means. Okay, so again, if I go to the text view here, you can see this thing. There's an ID here. So ID is what identifies this particular view, and this is what we can use to access this view in our code. So this one is called text view. I'm gonna give it a slightly better name here. Text view count, right? Because that counts. Now you see what happened there. I edited the ID here and I got an error here. This is because this is a relative layout. So this button is positioned relatively to this text view. And the way it's positioning itself is by using the ID of the text view. Since I've changed the ID of the text view, this positioning no longer makes sense because this ID text view no longer exists, right? So I need to change it here as well. Oops, sorry, don't put enter. God, okay. Right, so I'm just saving here. I'm pressing Control S to save. You can also save over here. Right, so you can see the error has gone away. I can also change the ID of this button here. So it's just called button. I'm gonna call it button click. And then again, you see I'm getting the same error here because I've changed the button over there. I can do click here. Click, because as you can see, the second button is laid out below the button click, right? And also aligned to the left of button click, and it also aligned with the start of button click. So this is how a relative layout works. There are different types of layouts, but relative is pretty good one because it can sort of shift with the device because it's all relative, right? So as long as the first one is there, it will sort of find the other ones will find themselves in the correct place. So this is instead of like hard coding the position of the buttons and the views, because Android devices are very different. There are probably hundreds of screen types and resolutions, and they even square Android phones and all that. So relative layout works pretty well. Okay, so what am I missing here? Button 2, I want to call it button reset, right? Right, no errors, that's good. Right, so I'm pretty much done with the layout here. I'm gonna go to the code now. If you go to Java here, if you remember our package name, you'll find the main activity there. There's also this test package. So that's if you want to run tests for your application, to write tests for your application, so you can test it automatically. But we're not going to do any of that, so just go back to the main activity here. Right, so as part of the application, Android application, it's called a life cycle. So when you launch an application, it goes through a life cycle, and this activity goes through a life cycle. So if you Google Android application life cycle, I don't have internet right now, you will see this nice little sort of flow chart that shows the different stages that an activity goes through, and it has various methods are called at different times. So when you start an application, there's a method called onStart that gets called, and then there's a method called onCreate that gets called. So onCreate is where the layout is set. So here we set the content view. So we link this code here, our main activity, to our layout, which we just designed, right? So they are now sort of bound together, and this activity will display this layout, right? So what you want to do here, I want to link those buttons and views to this activity, right? So I have a button call it anything, button click. Now as you can see, it doesn't know what a button is, but there's a suggestion here. If I put my mouse, where is it? Over there, it's suggesting that I import Android widget button, right? And it says Alt Enter. So I'm just gonna hold Alt and press Enter, and then this menu pops up. I'm gonna import the class here. I'm sure there's a better shortcut somewhere, but I don't know it. So you see it has imported Android widget button. So it has imported the button class, which is what we are using here. And we have a second button btn reset. So that works already because we've already imported that. And then we have a text view, txt count, right? Again, it doesn't know what a text view is. I need to import that. Import the class, right? Text view. Right, so that's that. So we have created an object of type button, two objects of type button, and objects of type text view. Now we need to link this button to the button in our layout, and we do that through the ID. Right, so here in our onCreate, we need to do this in the onCreate. So our button is button click is equal to button find view by ID ara.id.button click. If you remember, this button click is the name we chose for a button in the layout, right? Just gonna double click that and that. Right, so what's happening here, find view by ID. A button is a view. All these things on the screen are views. All these items, this might be called widgets in other programming languages. Widgets, what they call controls. And if you've ever programmed for Windows, they're called controls. Here they're called views. So we're gonna link this button here we created to the view over here, right? So this find view by ID returns a view, and then we need to cast this view into a button. So we can have it over there in our button click. And then we do the same for button reset is equal to button button reset, right? So this is the same deal over here. We are linking it to a button reset, and then we need to link the text view. So text count, count. Now this is a text view, so we need to cast it into a text view. Text view count, right? That's the name we gave to our text view over here. The ID we gave to a text view, right? So those are all now linked. So what do we want to happen? We want to react when the user clicks this button and increment this number here by 1, right? So what you need to do is set the on-click listener for our click button. Now there are a couple of ways to do this. So the one easy way is just to have the button click dot set on click listener. So as I type, it's suggesting items, right? Because it's Android Studio is intelligent like that. So I'm just gonna select set on click listener, enter, and then in here I need to go again, new on. Now make sure you're typing a capital O here. I noticed this myself. So if I type lowercase on, nothing happens. But if I type capital On, on click listener, I want the top one there. So new on click listener, you see it will fill that out by itself. You see it fills out the inside, so it actually takes a while. There's like a 5-second pause there, but you see it completed the inside method as well. So every time someone clicks a button, this on click method will be fired. So this is called a callback, I believe. So what do you want to happen when the onClick method is fired? We want to get the value that is in here, add 1 to it, and then put the value back in the label, right? So I need my label here, text count dot get text, right? So I want to get the text from the text view. So let me just do this the long way. Just gonna go string, oops, count value. Sorry, this is Java, right? Capital S. Now this doesn't quite work. You need to, because this get text actually returns a character sequence, as you can see there, but the string count value is a string. So what you need to do is dot to string here, right? So now we have the value that is currently in the label. We have stored it in a count value variable there. Now what we probably want to do is convert it to a integer, right? Because this is a string, we can't add numbers to strings, so you want to convert this to an integer. I'm just gonna go, let's see here, integer dot is it pass? Yes, pass int. So this method here will convert any string, well, any valid string into an integer. So we want the string count value, right? Right, so again I want to store this in some now I'm just doing this the long way just for demonstration purposes. Of course you could do this all in one line, but I think it's better this way just for clarity's sake. When you could pull the string at the same time and convert it at the same time and just store it directly in the count value without having to store it first in the string there. So that's probably what you would do if you are making this up for real. Now, so I have the count value now. What I want to do is increment it by 1, right? So we do that by using the increment int count value. Oops. Right, so incrementing it by 1, and then we want to store it back in the count value here, text view here, right? I mean in the text count text view. So we have a text count, and then we do a set, and then we put the int count value back in there. Let's see. Right, so I'm gonna do the string value off just to be on the safe side. I'm not sure if you can set the integer directly as the text here. I'm gonna do value of int, right? So what this method will do is convert our int value into a valid string, which can be set as the text of the text view. So I believe that's it. Let me see here. Thinking. Okay, so I'm just saving, right? Control S to save. And what I wanna do now is launch our emulator so we can test the application. If you go to over here, there's Android AVD Android Virtual Device Manager. Just click that. So you see when you installed Android Studio, it created this one virtual device automatically. You can create others here, create virtual device. You can create all types of devices, so TVs, Android Wear, what is it, watches or whatever it is, tablets. So I'm just gonna cancel that. Just gonna click play here, and everything is good. We should have a emulator up and running in a few minutes. It can take a while depending on your computer, depending on all type of stuff. The emulator performance is really can be quite poor, but so just gonna pause the video here and get back to you when we're done. Okay, so it's opening up here. You can see it's like a real device on your screen. I'm just gonna close this. It's gonna start up like a real phone would start up, because this is actually the same Android image that's running on your phone. It's running on your computer. It's not it's not like a fake thing. Like if you program for I mean iPhone, they have this sort of fake uh, device emulator thing. This is the actual device code that's running on your machine, which is one of the reasons it's so slow. But anyway, see it's booting up there. See it started up. So it's like a real phone. You just swipe to unlock it. So something is crashed. It's exactly like a real Android phone. Just press OK. That happens the first time when the phone is booting and stuff. Okay, so you can see it's just like a real device. I can go to the apps here. I have my maps. I have all type of stuff there. Okay, so what you're gonna do now? You wanna launch this application. There's a play button here. So here it's up. Then I wanna press play. So now Grado is building the application. This again can be slow. See there, just deploy the application now. If you click here, but hopefully that will increase to 1. Yep, click. Oh, fantastic. Well, job done. Not quite. Our reset button does nothing. Okay, so that's because we haven't wired it up. Our click button is working fantastically. Reset does nothing, so we need to wire up our reset button. Again, same deal. We set an on click listener on the button. New on click listener. Enter. And then enter again. Okay, so you need to press enter twice there to get the inside methods. Right, on click. What we want to do when we click, you want to set the counter back to 0, right? So it should be pretty simple. You actually have it here. Copy that, paste it there. Just gonna put a 0 in there, right? So it's gonna set it to 0. Oops, sorry. Save. Now if we run it again, this application should relaunch. To rebuild the app first, and then it should relaunch. Again, it's asking me which emulator. Same one. Shouldn't ask that the next time, hopefully. You can, if you look at Android monitor here, you should be able to see the device log or what's happening. You see here, it's where is it? Yeah, it's loading the app here somewhere. So this is the logcat. Okay, so click, same way. Reset goes back to 0. Click. Reset goes back to 0. And if you go to app drawer, it should be in here somewhere. Click up. Right? Click. Reset. Right. Fantastic. So job done. Go and make your millions now. Thanks. See you. I'll be making I'll be making a lot of new tutorials based on Android Studio. So please subscribe to the video if you haven't already. I mean to the channel if you haven't already. And I'll see you in a little while. Thank you.